Have you ever wondered if you could actually communicate with a spirit? Now, I'm not talking about through signs or symbols. I'm talking about having a flowing conversation with any spirit, whether it's a spirit guide, a loved one, or any other energetic being. If that's you, you're going to want to stick around for this live training because I'm going to show you how anyone can connect with the spirit world and do it in a way that's undeniable. Welcome on in, everybody, to this live training. Let me know where you're watching from. Go ahead and give me a comment and let me know where you're watching. As I go through today, I want to show you, my number one intention for today is to show you how easy it really is to connect with the spirit world and to show you that anyone can do this. This is not reserved for a special few. You don't have to be born into this. There is no mysticism and, all of this mystery around spirit communication, that it is very simple, easy, and direct. And so that's my goal today, is to show you exactly what needs to be done in order for anyone to be able to communicate with the spirit world. If you're excited about that, if that's something that you're interested in, let me know in the comments as well. Drop me like a thumbs up emoji or just say yes, because I have something really special prepared for you here today. I want to show you through this workshop here today how if you are beating your head against the wall, trying to connect with the spirit world, I'm going to show you how to skip all that and kind of move forward without all of that heartache, because, it really sucks. It really does suck when you're trying everything and nothing that you're doing is getting you to connect in the way that you want. All right. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions, right? As I'm going through this, let me know any questions that may come up. I'm going to be going to the comments. I'm going to be, answering your questions. For those of you who are just tuning in, for those of you that maybe this is your first time seeing me, my name is August Gonsalves, and I teach people how to connect with the spirit world without all the woo and mystery. All right. Just simple, practical ways that you can have an instant connection. All right. So I'd like to kind of just start off telling you a little bit about how I got into this and where this came from and how I came about all of this and how I got to the place where I'm actually teaching people how to do this, right? Why should you listen to me, right? So let me tell you a little bit about my story and my background. Prior to the spiritual awakening that I had in my mid-30s, I didn't believe in any of this. I was a complete non-believer. I didn't really think about the spirit world or after death or anything. I was always a very positive person. I was big on self-improvement and stuff, but I never really did anything or believed in any spirit communication or anything. That was until I had my spiritual awakening in my mid-30s, and it occurred through the ending of a relationship. It was a really, really traumatic time for me in my life. It was probably one of the lowest points in my life. And what happened is one of the days, it was like a really bad day. I'm in my living room, I'm by myself, and I look over, and there are two spirits there that have physically manifested themselves. And I had never experienced anything like that before, so I thought I had lost my mind. I freaked out. I looked away and I was like, this isn't real. This isn't real. This isn't real. I looked back over and one of the spirits leaned forward closer to me and said, yes, it is. And we need to talk to you. It's been long enough. And I said, no way in hell. And I ran out of my house scared. I was really, really scared. And so, in the time I was in therapy. And so I called my therapist and said, you're not going to believe this. I have lost my mind. And so she said, well, why don't you come into my office? And so I ended up going to her office that evening, and we sat down and we spoke. And she said, August, I don't think you're losing your mind. I think that you're having a spiritual awakening. And I had never heard that term up until that point. And I said, well, if that's what this is, how do I stop it? How do I make this stop? How do I get better? I thought that there was something wrong with me. And so she took a little bit of time and explained to me what a spiritual awakening was. Now, I want you to keep in mind, this was a licensed mental health counselor. All right. This is somebody that I had selected. All right. Out of all the therapists that I interviewed to work with, this is somebody who I picked. And lo and behold, she was very involved in the spiritual community. She was very spiritual herself. And so she knew that this was time to explain these things to me. And so I sat in her office and we talked for several hours, and she kind of helped me understand what was going on a little bit. But that didn't really make things easier for me, right? I felt a little bit better about it, but I understood a little bit, but I knew that I was still very uneasy about it all. And so I ended up going home that evening, and the spirits weren't there. All right, which was great. So I went to bed. I woke up the next morning, and I could feel the spirits there. I couldn't see them, thank goodness, right? But I could feel these spirits there. But this time I could feel their energy. I could feel how much they loved me, how much they cared for me. And I could just feel in their energy how much they wanted to help me. And so we started to talk. I had no idea how it was happening. I was talking to them. They were talking to me. It was happening freely, flowing, like just like how we're having a conversation now. It was happening exactly like that. All right. But I wasn't seeing them. It was all internal. Right. And it sounded like my thoughts, but I could tell that it was not my thoughts. Right. And that's what it sounded like when I heard them. But anyway, I really couldn't, I had no idea how it was happening. So anyway, we spoke for about 3 days. I wrote down all kinds of things. They wanted me to write down stuff about my past, about what was going on in life now, and things about what were going to happen in the future. And so I filled about 3 notebooks up, all right, with all this amazing information. Also, during that first 3 days, every person that I knew that had passed up until that point came to visit me. Okay. I had relatives, I had friends, I had all kinds of people that were coming just to say hi, tell me what's up on the other side, help, there were even people that showed up to kind of resolve some unfinished things that we had before they passed. And so it was really amazing, beautiful experience. Even at the time I had an office that I was running. And even when I went to the office, I could feel everybody else's loved ones there. I could start to see them and connect with them. Had no idea how this was happening, all right, these first 3 days. It was just this amazing, really beautiful experience, okay? At the end of that 3 days, I woke up on the 4th day and it was all gone. I couldn't sense the spirit world anymore. I had no idea what had happened, all right? So I waited a day, nothing. Waited a second day, nothing. And then this is where my spiritual journey truly began, because I was like, all right, this went away. I need to figure out how to get it back. What happened? And so for the next 2 years, I spent full time doing nothing but pursuing how to connect with the spirit world, how to be able to communicate with, those that have crossed over or energy beings. And so that journey took me all over the place, right? I was full time. I literally read a book a week. I took all the courses. I traveled the world going to all these spiritual retreats. I did direct mentorships with many of the famous mediums that are out there today. I even traveled overseas to the UK, to the Arthur Findlay College, and studied there, which for those of you that aren't familiar, this is a world-renowned psychic and mediumship school. This is like the holy grail of spirit communication. If you want to be a professional psychic medium, you probably came out of the Arthur Findlay College. That's the last thing to do, okay? And so throughout this journey, all right, I met some amazing, wonderful people, all right? And I had some really cool experiences. But once I got out of the Arthur Findlay College, I was like, wow, 2 years, and I did everything that I'm supposed to do, but I still haven't connected like I did those first 3 days. Before I knew anything, before I even knew what this was. And I was really, really discouraged by that. And I was like, over these 2 years, I have not come anywhere near the level of connection that I had for those first 3 days. There was nothing that happened in those 2 years that came even close to that experience. And so, like I said, I had done everything up to that point that you're supposed to do. I did all of the research. I figured it all out. I literally tracked every single thing, every single modality, every single leader in the industry, and I did it. Okay? And so at the end, once I got out of the Arthur Findlay College, at the end of these 2 years, I was ready to give up. But I knew that I couldn't. I knew that me giving up meant that this experience was not real. And I knew that it was. I could not discount that. And so what I ended up deciding to do is okay, I learned all of this crap, right? Nothing helped me. But before I knew anything, before I knew what a chakra was, before I did any kind of meditating, before I knew about any kind of weird spiritual practices and rituals and lights and bringing things through the, bubbles and all that stuff, before I knew how to do any of that, it just happened. It just flowed. I just connected. And so I became obsessed with those first 3 days. Like, how did that happen? And so I literally just super fixated on that. And I'm thinking, and I'm analyzing, I'm like, well, what was I feeling when I was talking to them? When I heard them, what was that like? What that sounded like? How did I receive that? What was going on in my body? What did it feel like when my energy and intention, because I wasn't speaking out loud. So what did it feel like when I was radiating this, right? What did my energy feel like? What did their energy feel like? Was there a difference, right? So anyway, I became obsessed. And so I started to have a couple insights, all right? They came small, little tiny ones. And so what I did was I would apply those insights as I was trying to connect with the spirit world, okay? And it would work. Mind you, all of that stuff that I learned on that 2-year journey, I had made the decision before any of this that I'm just going to throw it all away because it wasn't working. All right. And so that's how I got to the place where I needed to analyze these 3 days. And so after a couple of weeks, I did have my first insight. And so I started to apply and I started to work with it. And then I went a little bit deeper and now I had a new experience to analyze. And so I started to analyze that new experience and cross-reference it to that first experience. And I mean, I was picking every single thing apart, not while I was trying to connect with the spirit world, but after I had my experiences. And so I'm picking things apart. Weeks go by. I find another little thing. I apply it. Boom. I go another deeper, a little bit deeper. Now I have 3 experiences. I'm experimenting. I'm comparing these 3 experiences. I'm going back and forth, and then I have another experience and I'm like, wow, I have another insight and boom, that leads to a deeper experience. And at that point, this is probably about 2 months had gone by, right? And I hadn't used any of the stuff that I learned those 2 years on my spiritual journey. None of it. I literally threw it all out and forgot about it. I was just working with the experiences and the insights that I was having, experimenting on my own. Okay. And so what I realized 2-3 months in was like, this is way easier than any of that stuff that I was learning. Spirit communication is simple. And so with that principle in mind, I applied that into everything that I was doing. And for the next next 7 years, all right, it was a 9-year journey total. For the next 7 years, I did exactly that. I experimented. I analyzed. I would get an insight. I would apply the insight. All right. It would work or it wouldn't work. If it didn't work, I would move on. If it did work, I would have another experience to analyze. And I kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going. And then it was literally like almost 90, like to the day, it was almost 9 years where that last piece of the puzzle clicked. And I was like, whoa, there it is. And then I was like, wow, that was just some random thing. I just got lucky. And then I did it again. Boom. And I was like, wow, okay, this is working. I was like, and then I would have my doubts and I'd try again. Boom. And it would work. And I was like, okay, this is working. This really is working. I've got this. And so at that point, I was completely content. I was cool with connecting with the spirit world. I felt that it was really awesome that I could do this. This was something that I was using for myself, right? But not only was I connecting with the spirit world, but my other abilities, right? Like when we connect with our intuition or when we read psychic energy or whether we're communicating with the spirit world, it's all these same abilities that we use, right? It's all of the spiritual abilities that we use for these different things are all the same. All right. I know that there's traditional labels that, call them different things and they're different gifts, but we use our spiritual abilities to access all of that stuff, whether it's our intuition, whether we're reading somebody psychically, or whether we're communicating with the spirit world. It really is the same abilities we're using for those things. Anyway, I digress. Okay. So what happens at this point is I'm involved in the spiritual community, right? And I'm going around and I'm going to these spiritual events and, crystal bowl meditations and, crystal workshops and all these things. I was still very much into the traditional spiritual stuff, but more as like a way to connect with other people rather than a practical way to connect with the spirit world, okay? And so what ended up happening is that I would talk about my experience at some of these events, all right, afterwards, with some of the people that attended. And what ended up happening is these people, the people that were attending the events, they would come back. I would see them at other events and they'd be like, August, those things that you were talking about that you were doing, we tried them too, and they're starting to work for us. We're having some experiences. And I heard this, I kept hearing this over and over again. And then eventually people were like, you need to do a workshop. You really need to teach this stuff because it's working for so many of us. And I was very hesitant, right? At that point, I didn't want, I had felt like, I had achieved a goal, right? It was spirit communication. It was reconnecting with the spirit world. And at that point, I felt satisfied. All right. More on that later. But at that point, I felt very satisfied. All right. I ended up reluctantly holding my first workshop. About 20 people showed up. I was scared to death, so nervous. I had no idea what I was doing. I literally, as people were coming in, contemplated running out of the room and hiding and just leaving. Okay, that's how nervous and afraid I was to actually try and teach people. I had no curriculum. I had no idea what I was doing. All right. So this first workshop begins, and I do the only thing that I know how to do. All right, and what I do is I just talk about my experiences. I talk about what I'm doing, what was happening while I was connecting, what it was like for me, what it felt like, all of those things. I just talked about my experiences pretty much. And then about 30, 45 minutes later, after I had felt like I've said everything that I could, I asked everybody, I told them, I said, hey, why don't you guys pair up and give it a shot? You guys try to read for the partner that you're paired up for. And I just thought that might as well. Okay. I don't know why I did that. I just thought might as well try, they're going to laugh me out of the room anyway. And so they paired up and the room was dead silent. Nobody was doing anything. I had no idea what to do or how to help them. Okay. But just as I was getting ready to turn around and literally run out of the room, there was a woman in the back that started to speak. She started to describe a spirit that was standing around behind the person she was reading for. And she started to describe them in great detail, like their hair, facial features, what they were wearing, their mannerisms, how she was kind of like standing with her hand on the shoulder of the person she was reading for. And all of a sudden, the person she was reading for starts to cry. And she's like, that's my sister. And the other, and then everybody's getting emotional or, I'm getting emotional. The two in the back are getting emotional. Right. And she's still going, right. And giving messages and talking about what this person's sister and spirit is telling her. And before I could even really comprehend and take in what was actually happening, the entire room started to speak up. Everybody was doing it. Everybody was channeling a spirit. Everybody was communicating with the spirit world. They were literally doing it. And there was no one in that room more surprised than I was, okay? I literally just sat down in my chair at the front of the room and I was blown away. I must have had the silliest look on my face because I was so surprised at what was happening. So, anyway, this goes down at the end of the workshop. It all ends. People are talking to me, telling me about their experiences, and I'm still blown away. Well, there was one woman in the back of the room, all right, that she waited till everybody had left, and she came up to me at the end. It was just her and I, and she's like, August, I want to let you know, 20 years ago, I lost my husband. He had died tragically, and it was very sudden, and I had always been worried about him, that he was still suffering on the other side, or did he even make it there? What was he doing? Is he okay? And I just had these feelings I could not shake, and it crippled me for 20 years. I have been barely able to function every single day. I just think that he's in so much pain. And she goes, I just want you to know, in this one workshop, I snapped out of a 20-year grief spell because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I connected with my husband. He told me that he did not suffer a bit. He told me that he is doing fine, that the spirit world is amazing, and that he's been watching me over me this entire time. He confirmed the times that he was giving me signs, but I just talked myself out of them and discounted them. He gave me some advice about things that were going on in my life right now. He helped me with some things some decisions that I had on the table that I need to make. And like, she's crying the whole time. I'm crying, right? And we're just like, oh, right? And we're just both these basket cases, right? And so anyway, so as she's telling me this and she finishes and we hug and, it was really emotional. In that moment, I knew my purpose, right? I knew it hit me like a ton of bricks. This is why I'm here. This is why I'm here. I'm here to help people connect with the spirit world. I'm here to spread the message that anyone can do this, right? And not only that, not only connect with the spirit world for healing and continuation of our relationship with our loved ones. That's such a beautiful piece of it. But the way that it has changed my life, right? Because I got asked this question a while ago. Somebody asked me, how has developing your spiritual abilities changed your life? It has in so many ways, right? Not only do I connect with my loved ones whenever I miss them, but now they're there on holidays. They're there for birthdays. We continue to joke. They drop in unexpectedly, surprise me. I have some funny loved ones that are on the other side, right? Between family and friends that have crossed. And so so the relationship we had here continues. Right? And so that's amazing and wonderful in itself. But one of the biggest transformations that I had in my life is that being able to tune into my energy, right? And to really not just become aware of my purpose, but feel where I can contribute my gifts and skills in a way that has the biggest impact that I can make in this lifetime. And not only that, but also to see the steps to take to step out on with clarity to achieve that purpose. Okay. And as I would take each step on that path, I would feel more satisfaction and meaning in my life. Right. And now I feel like I'm fully embracing my purpose. And so I think this is the biggest thing that has changed in my life. I feel like I'm fully walking in my purpose and I'm embracing it. There's so much meaning and satisfaction in my life from what I do and from seeing all of you and the breakthroughs that you all have and how you guys go out and spread this and how it ripples out into the world, right? And so I think that's the biggest way that has impacted my life is just the sense of purpose and meaning that I have now, all right? Not only that, okay, but also another way that it has impacted me is through my relationships, right? I'm so attuned to energy now that I can feel my relationships. The quality of my relationships have improved drastically because I could feel into the energy of the other and I can feel into the energy of our relationship. The relationship has an energy and I can just attune to the needs of the other person so much easier. And I can project my energy, right? So much easier. So it's kind of like we just feel attuned to each other in my relationships, right? With my family, with my kids, with friends, with business associates and people that I meet, it's just this attunement that we have, right? And that came from my own attunement to my own energy, right? Because that's the other thing that I got out of this is that I recognize the second something in my energy is off, I tune into it, I know exactly what is off, and then I have the clarity to step in to know exactly what I need to do to correct whatever's going on in my energy, right? And so I say that those are the biggest things that have improved, right? For me is being able to connect with my loved ones anytime that I want, being able to improve the relationships in my life, being so attuned to my energy. I know when the stuff is off. All right. Also, a couple other cool things is that, when you're living in your purpose, everything kind of starts to line up for you, between health, financially, between your relationships and everything else involved. Things start to just line up because you're living in your authenticity. And so this has drastically improved the quality of my life. All right. And I see it in my students. It ripples out there. My students, when they come into this and the way that their lives change immediately, I mean, it's the most beautiful feeling that I've ever experienced. Okay. And so, and there's one other thing that's really important that I think a lot of you out there would highly benefit from. I know it's something that really, really took things to the next level for me spiritually. Was once you have your abilities and you're rock solid in them, you are free to explore spiritually on your own. You don't need to go ask another teacher. You don't need to go look something up in a book. You don't need to watch another video. You just go into the energy that connects us all and you get the answer. You figure out, you want to know what's in the afterlife, what happens next? Go get it. You can find out, right? You want to know what's going on in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 9th dimension? Go check it out. You can, okay? And so that's the other benefit, is that we can explore our spirituality and these different energetic realms on our own without having to rely on anyone, right? Isn't that cool? Isn't that refreshing? Isn't that like really empowering to know? Right? That you don't have to rely on somebody else to tell you, oh, this is your spiritual gift, or, oh, this is your purpose, or this is what happens on the other side. You can get that answer directly. All right. Okay. Any questions? Let me know if any questions, and let me know in the comments too if that sounds refreshing. Like if this is something that you're like, yes, I need that. I want to, I want these things. I want to be able to experience my spirituality freely. I want to be able to connect with my loved ones, continue a relationship with them in spirit. Let me know which one of those transformations is the most important for you, right? Connecting with loved ones, improving your quality of life, whether it's health, wealth, relationships, all right? Or whether it's exploring spiritually on your own. What's the most important for you? Okay, let me know in the comments. Let's see what everybody has to say. I'm super curious. Loved ones. Yeah. How many days is my workshop? I'm doing a workshop right now. Oh, the workshop that I was talking about earlier. I don't do that specific workshop anymore. That was like one of the first workshops I ever did. Yeah, that was a weekend workshop. Yeah, everything that I do now is online through my mentorship program. Yeah, I had found that the best way, the most impact that I can have, in this world is through helping others connect. And I figured out a way to do that is through my mentorship program. I have everything packaged in through that to help people get the fastest, best result when it comes to connecting with the spirit world. And so that's where 100% of my focus goes to when I'm working with others. Okay. I'm trying to connect with my guides and my loved ones. Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. That was a big one for me. A big thing was actually, so connecting with the spirit world is what really got me into all of this, right? To connecting with my spiritual abilities. Okay. So let's go ahead and move on. All right. So here's the thing I wanted to be clear of. This is one of the reasons why I told you my story, is because, listen, I am not special. Okay. Let me get a little bit closer. I am not special. I am no different than you are. We are the same. We're on the same level. I'm not more spiritually evolved. I didn't have this running in my family. I didn't even believe in this. Okay. If I can do this, trust me, if I can do this, anyone can. And I'm serious about that, right? I don't claim to be this, this special person put on a pedestal and like, ha ha ha, I have these gifts. I don't even claim to be a medium. I don't call myself a psychic. I don't use any of that terminology because I want to be very clear that I'm just a regular guy with a regular life. You know, what I do for a living is just different. That's all. You know, that's it. Okay. And if I can connect the spirit world, you can too. So my goal today is to show you how you can. All right. How anyone can. All right. And what I learned along my own personal journey was that spirit communication isn't complicated. All right. That you just really have to keep it simple. But here's the problem where people get tripped up. Okay, they're still stuck in the old way of connecting with spirits, right? They're still stuck in the old ways of developing their abilities. But the truth is, the new way is simplicity, okay? And let me tell you a little bit about what I mean by this. All right, so the old way says that we have to do things like meditate. All right, that we have to be able to meditate in order to connect with the spirit world, that we have to align chakras, balance chakras, clean chakras, work with the appropriate crystals, do these opening rituals, do these closing down prayers, to imagine light coming through our body, to create these bubbles around us, and all of these other, like, I think that they're kind of weird, right? These weird spiritual rituals. But the truth is, you don't need any of that. You don't need meditation. You don't need to do anything with your chakras. They have their own divine intelligence. All right. Spirit communication is easy. It's simple. You can go right into it. You don't have to sit there and meditate first. You can just step right into it and connect. All right. And I want to tell you how I figured this out. All right. The first time I figured this out, this was big for me, right? On my spiritual journey, when I was trying to learn how to connect to the spirit world, this was probably the first biggest insight that I ever had. All right. And it was when I was like, through that 9-year journey that I was taking, as I was learning and experimenting, I was going to these mediumship circles. All right. And these mediumship circles are just where a bunch of aspiring mediums get together and they do practice readings for each other. And so I was a part of these groups, lots of them. Okay. Almost every night a week, I was out doing readings in these groups, and I was terrible at it. I was so bad at doing readings, right? I was so bad. At that point, I was really terrible at connecting with the spirit world in general, but I kept going, right? And one of the things that we were taught in these circles is like, there is this process that you go through, right? So when I would pair up with somebody, right, and it was my turn to give a practice reading to my partner, like, we were taught that there is this process that you have to go through. Okay, where it's this opening up, you do this little light meditation, you visualize these things coming through. Like, it was like this whole process that took like 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, sometimes longer. Okay, there were longer versions of this as well, but the only one that I could do was really about 3 to 5 minutes, right? Because my mind would be all over the place. And so what I noticed is that a lot of the times when I sat down to go read with somebody and I started my process, the spirit was there. They were there already. And then I'm kind of like, well, okay, well, hold on. I've got to finish, right? I wanted to be a good student. I've got to finish. I got to do this. And then I would do my thing, and I would go, and I'd be like, man, I don't even feel him no more. Where did you go? Are you still here? Like, and that happens so often, right? Sometimes they would be there, right? And that's when I would like get a good reading, right? That's when I would give a decent reading, right? When they were there. And so I remember one time I sat down and I could feel, like, before I even sat down and paired up with my partner, I knew that I was going to get paired up with this person. I already had the spirit that was there with them. They were already with me, right? And I sit down in my chair, and they're in front of me. He's in front of me, the person I'm reading. And I close my eyes and I start to go through my process, and I hear the spirit. The spirit's like, yo, like, let's talk. And I was like, you know what? Screw this. Hey, what's up? Boom. Immediately, the spirit's like, I'm here. Listen, I've been wanting to connect with this person. I'm so glad that you're here. Listen, this was a friend of mine from a long time ago. We were friends in college. We had this big falling out. It was so stupid. It was all my fault. I wish I would have never let it happen. We were such good friends up until that point, and I just really regret never mending things, right? It was totally my fault. I understand why, and so this spirit was taking accountability for this falling out that they had with the person I was reading. And so I'm delivering this information. I deliver it to the person, and they're like, well, that does line up with a friend that I had, for sure. Can you tell me more about what they look like, right? And so I was seeing the spirit already. I was seeing the spirit in my mind's eye already. And so boom, immediately I was like, well, this person's dressed in this gothic attire. They're wearing this like leather vest, and they got leather pants on. They've got this mohawk and the chain, and they're wearing Doc Marten boots. And the guy I was reading was like, yeah, that's exactly, you described my friend to the T, right? And he was like, the Doc Marten boots are so significant too. I can't even tell you how important that little detail was, and his style, the way that he dressed as well. And so he tells me, but I haven't talked to him in so long. I don't even know if he's passed. Can you ask him how he passed away? And so I said, okay, sure. And so I asked the spirit, and the spirit tells me, I died from being electrocuted. And I was like, whoa, that was kind of specific. I've never really heard of anyone being electrocuted and passing, right? And so naturally I got a little curious, and I was like, well, what do you mean you got electrocuted, right? So many things run through your mind. And he says, well, I got in this car accident. All right. And this power, I hit a telephone pole, and this power line fell down onto my car. And when I went to go get out of the car after the accident, I didn't know that it was touching, and I was electrocuted and died right there. And so I was like, wow, that was really specific. And so anyway, the reading was over, and the guy I was reading for, he's like, well, I don't know. Like you described my friend and the situation and everything, but I just don't know if he has passed. But I tell you what, let me go check. I still know some people that are in touch with his family. Let me go ask them. And next week we'll get together, and I'll let you know what I heard. And so next week rolls around, we come back to the circle, and he's there, and he's got this big smile on his face, and he runs up to me. He's like, August, you're never going to believe this. I connect with his family. He definitely did pass. He passed a few years after we had stopped connecting, or after we had our falling out. He said, you're never going to believe this. You're never going to believe this. And I was like, how did he pass? Right? That's all I wanted to know. How did he pass? And he's like, he died in a car accident. He died when this electrical line fell on his car. He opened the door, and he got electrocuted and died right there on the spot. And I said, wow. And it hit me. I still get the chills from this story. And right there, it wasn't there wasn't these, I look back, and whenever I would nail a reading, even after that, I would have these feelings, I'd be so proud of myself. I'm like, yeah, that was awesome. I did so good, right? I didn't have that feeling. What happened is, as soon as he told me that, the insight dropped into my head like a download, and it was like, you don't need any of that stuff. That stuff that you were doing before you were connecting is exactly what's stopping you from coming into conversations like this with the spirit world. So I was like, from that point on, I never did any other kind of ritual. I stopped meditating altogether, and my spirit communication did nothing but improve from there on. Okay. And so that's I want to leave you with that. I want you to know that all of that stuff, all of the stuff that you're supposed to do, that's the old way. That's the other way. The new way to communicate with spirits, the easy way, is by keeping it simple. By keeping it simple. I went right into it. Right? I felt the spirit, and boom, we were there communicating. Just like when I had my first experience, I felt the spirit, and boom, before I knew any of the stuff that I was supposed to do, right? I had to let that go, and it happened, and it improved, right? Isn't that cool? Isn't that, how many of you are out there struggling with these same things? Let me know in the comments, how many of you love to meditate, right? How many of you are having these huge, amazing spiritual experiences through meditation? right? Not that it can't happen, but are you able to do it consistently every time, right? Isn't it such a relief that you don't have to do any of that stuff, right? Because those of you that have been doing this a little while, right, have been trying to connect. Like, one of the things that used to piss me off so bad when I was trying to learn how to communicate, and I was going and I was mentoring with people and I was taking courses, and I'd go to the teacher and I would be like, look, this kind of, this really isn't working for me. Like, I'm not really to have this, oh, you need to meditate better. You're not meditating good enough, or you're not meditating enough, right? It always came like that. Like, who has been told that and just have felt like, okay, and then you would go and try it and nothing would happen, right? That was so frustrating for me. That was so, like, I got to the point where I was like, I would walk up and ask a question and I'd be like, don't tell me to meditate, but this ain't working. And they would still tell me to meditate. Okay, right? But isn't it cool that we don't have to do any of that? Let's see where you guys are. Amber says, do you think anyone can actually learn, or do you think maybe the spirits who choose us? No. Listen, you can connect with any spirit anytime, whenever you want, for as long as you want. You can have a flowing conversation. Anyone can do this. You don't learn to communicate with the spirit world. That is, like I said, that's the old way, right? You don't learn. There's not enough information out there for you to consume that you will be able to do it. It takes forgetting all that crap to do this. Everybody was born with these abilities. We came into this world wide opening, and it's our upbringing and societal conditioning, familial conditioning, religious conditioning, all right, that caused us to forget these things. Spirit communication isn't about a secret. It isn't about a technique. It's about forgetting and remembering what you already have, okay? Everybody can. I've worked with thousands of people. I have never seen somebody that can't do this. Okay? Thank you guys for so much, all of the love and stuff. Yeah, I appreciate you all. Yeah, oh, 10-10. It's 10-10 today, right? Is that significant for you guys? Let me know in the comments. Does 10-10 mean anything for you? It's a friend of mine's birthday. Listen, I appreciate all the interaction. Listen, the more comments and the more questions you guys ask, the more you can like this video and share it, the more that it will really help me get this out and the algorithms pick it up. And so you're really doing me a favor the more that you interact with this and like it and do all of those things. You're doing me like a huge, it would really mean the world to me if you guys would help like blow this thing up, right? And it really helps other people too. It brings more of an awareness so others can get this information that need it, okay? So I really appreciate you guys so much, all right? So let's keep going, all right? Let's keep going. So listen, I know those of you that have been following along, like hopefully at this point you're like, okay, I see, like this really makes sense, August. Spirit communication is easy. I can really see where you're coming from. This makes total sense. But I think it's easy for everyone else, and I'm going to be the one person that it's not easy for or that can't do it. Who's thinking that right now? Be honest. Claim it, because the first thing to getting out of that energy is to be aware that you are in it. Who is thinking this right now? All right? That, okay, cool, it's easy. I believe anyone can do this. I think that it's simple, but I'm the one person that can't. Okay? Yeah, I see you guys. Don't worry. I felt the same way too. I'm going to show you how to break out of this, right? This is going to help you. This right here is going to help you break out of that. All right. You're no longer going to feel like the one this won't work for anymore. Okay. Because listen, I've not only have I experienced it, but I've also said it myself 1,000 times. I've heard it 1,000 times. But it brings me back to this one time. Every time I hear it now, it brings me back to this one time where it was one of the first workshops that I did, right? When I was on this journey, when people basically were twisting my arm to teach this and I didn't want to. think this was like the third or fourth workshop I ever did, where I had it kind of a little bit perfected by this time. And so what I used to do is these whole weekend workshops, all right, where day one was just kind of me talking and getting to know people and kind of like integrating the energy. And then the second day that we would do this experience, right? It was like this hybrid group individual experience where I would lead them into a connection with the spirit world and get them started. And then I would walk around and like individually help those who were struggling get into a connection. And so that was the method of this workshop that I used to teach. And so I remember like the first day, right? These were weekend workshops, the Saturday, Sunday. And I remember the first day, one of the first things we do is we kind of just go around the room. And these were small workshops, like 20 people, 15 people. One of the first things we would do is go around the room and everybody would talk about what their intention is, why they're here, what's the reason that they're wanting to connect to the spirit world. And it's just kind of like to connect us all and connect the energy. And we got like, it was like the fourth, fifth person in. We got to this guy in the back and he's like, look, I don't believe in any of this crap. These three, you see those three people over there? Those are some of my good friends. They're the ones that believe in all of this. We were looking for something to do this weekend. We found this workshop and they dragged me here, said I had to come. But listen, I don't believe any of this. You do your thing. Even if it was real, I don't think you could teach this to anybody. I was like, okay. I was like, cool. Well, welcome, right? Well, like, what do you say to that, right? What do you say to that, right? And I don't know. I just kind of like my reaction to it was, well, look here, I'm not here to change your mind, right? I don't want you to like go against your beliefs or anything, but listen, you're here. You're here for the weekend. Are you going to stay here in this workshop while your friends do this, right? Because if you're going to be in and out, you just might as well go out now because I'm not going to let you disturb people. And he's like, no, I'm going to hang out. I'm going to see what it's all about, but I know that you can't teach this to me. I said, okay. I said, well, listen, you're here. If you're going to be going through this, why don't we do this? Why don't you come in and get curious? Set your beliefs aside for just this weekend. And listen, I'm not telling you to change your beliefs. I'm telling you to just set them aside, okay? Don't worry, after the workshop's over, you can pick them right back up. But while you're here, why don't you just do that, okay? And then ask yourself, what if this is possible? What if this is real? How could I benefit from it, right? How could he benefit from it? And so he was like, oh, I don't know. And I was like, look, I'll make you a deal, okay? If you come in and you participate and you're genuine with this and you genuinely participate and really try, give it your best, if nothing happens for you at the end of the workshop, the last 15, 20 minutes, you can come to the front of the room and just make fun of me the whole time. And he was a very outgoing, funny guy. And he's like, oh, deal. Let's do that. Like he was excited for that. All right. And so I was a little nervous at that point, right? I don't know why I made that deal with him. Right? This was only like my fourth, fifth workshop. And so I didn't even know if I was going to be able to help him. Okay. And so lo and behold, we go through our first day. Second day, we open up the energy and we're doing the group experience and I'm helping everybody get into it. The whole group gets started. I'm looking at the guy in the back and he's really trying. He is literally, I could see he is really, truly trying to do this. And I felt good about that. I was like, wow, okay, maybe something will happen. And so I get everybody started. They're going. And there was a couple people in the front that I wanted to address first. So I started working with them. And then I made my way back to him because I could see he was struggling. And he's like, look, August, man, I'm really trying to do this. Like, I want to take you up on this. Like, like you said, if this is real, there is something that I have to gain for this. Like, there is something. And so I am curious. I'm really trying, but nothing's happening. So I said, okay. And so I start working with him a little bit. We're like 5-6 minutes in working together and I'm helping him. I'm getting him going. And then all of a sudden, like he's like sitting slunched over a little bit, cross-legged. All of a sudden he sits up and a tear comes down his eye. I could see his mother come right in. I put my hand on his back and I said, you're good now. And I walked away and he sat back there. I watched him the rest of the time having this amazing, wonderful experience, tears flowing, tears of joy, of relief, of happiness, just like his shirt was soaked, okay? I kept bringing him tissues, right? I think he must have gone through like a box of tissues. And so he's like having this huge cathartic experience back there. And so other people too, like, and so I'm walking around, I'm helping. Every time I look up, he's like deep into this experience, okay? And so, so after that was done, you know, after we had our experience, you know, what we do now is we kind of do like some integrating, okay? And so once we've all wrapped up, we'll integrate, we'll talk about our experiences, and we'll help anybody process, because a lot of emotions come up, right? And so I'll help people and I'll help the group process anything that came up for them. And so we get started with that. I'm, you know, working with a few people, and you know, all of a sudden he jumps up and he's like, hey, I want to talk about my experience. And I said, all right, yeah, what happened? He goes, August, thank you so much. He goes, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you for inviting me to put my beliefs aside, for asking me to genuinely participate. He goes, I want you to know that I connected with my mother here. She passed when I was a young boy, and there was a lot of things that were unresolved. That was very tough for me. And there was a lot of things that I wanted to tell her, and I wanted to ask, and it was just super tough. And we got a chance to do that here today, right? We got a chance to do here. And he goes, it was such an amazing, wonderful, beautiful experience. And had I not come here today, had you not be the one to tell me to just chill, I probably would have never had this. And he goes, thank you. I know that I can continue this relationship with my mom now. And I experienced so much healing here today. And I was just like, wow. I was like, wow. Like I was blown away. That was the first time I ever worked with a skeptic. Now I've worked with lots of them, but that was the first time I ever worked with somebody that was a skeptic. Like a real hardcore, like, you're not going to teach this to me, right? And so my question to you is, do you really feel like you can't learn this? Like you're the only one that cannot learn this? Where somebody that came in with such rigid beliefs, somebody that did like flat out told me, you cannot teach me this. If that person can learn how to do this, you can too. You can too. And it just goes to show that all you need is that willingness and that openness, and to set down the beliefs of the past, right? Whether that belief is that you believe that you're the only one this can't work for, or you believe that the old way of connecting with the spirit world is the only way, right? It just comes in here. It just comes down to having that fresh perspective. Spirit communication is easy, and I can do it. That's really all you need. That's really all you need. So if you're back there and you're struggling, right? So let me ask all of those that made the comment a few minutes ago about, oh, that's me. I think I'm the only one that can do this. Or I think I'm the only one that cannot do this, that it'll work for everyone. I believe you. It's right. If you a few minutes ago thought that you were the only one this wouldn't work for, let me know if this story changed your mind. Let me know if you think differently now, right? Because that's why I told you this. I hope that it does. I hope that this makes an impact on you, right? Because not only did this guy not believe, but he also believed that nobody could learn it, all right? And I was the same way. I didn't even believe in this. I didn't believe in none of it. And I was able to connect. Right? And I was able to connect. So, is this good? Are you guys getting something out of this? I hope, like, I put this together for you guys to kind of get you to the next level. And you know, I'm hoping that you're able to take stuff away from this and like apply it immediately, right? Because like I mentioned at the beginning of this, my goal is to get you there, right? My goal is by the end of this workshop to get you to a place to where you know exactly what you need to do to connect with the spirit world. Bella says, I feel I can, but honestly, I have no idea how or where to start. Well, I understand where you are. That's super confusing, right? That's the biggest, I would say that's another big hurdle to those of you that are just looking to come into this, right? For those of you that have been that are brand new to spirit communication or your spiritual abilities, like when you start looking into it, there's so much information. Oh, it's overwhelming, right? And then not only is there so much information, but there's so much contradictory information. Right? This person says this other person says that, this person does this person said to do that, this person said this, but this other person said not to do it, right? And then you're like, gosh, and it's so overwhelming, right? It's just so overwhelming. It's like sticking a fire hose in your mouth trying to get a drink of water, right? And I know exactly how that feels. And so that's what I hope to clear up here today. I hope that you really get some clarity here today, Bella, right? Or anyone else. Like, who else feels that way? Who else feels like there's so much information that you don't know what to do, right? If you feel that way, let me know, because I'm right there with you. I felt that way too. I felt that way too, Bella. You can overcome that. And listen, the way that you're going to overcome that, all right, I'm going to talk more about that at the end, because what I'm going to go into next, this next part of the workshop might clear this up for you. By the end of it, it definitely will. Okay, we'll help you figure out how you're going to navigate that part, how you're going to navigate that information overload. All right. So how many people want to know that? Where to start? Yeah. Way too much. Yeah. Yeah, so many different spiritual subjects. Jenna, I feel you. I use clairaudience to connect with past loved ones. Why do I have trouble connecting with spirit guides? It for a various amount of reasons. The biggest one is probably confidence, right? Confidence is really the biggest thing. Listen, there is no secret mystical reason why you're not connecting with the spirit world. There is no external force that's stopping you. You are the only one that's preventing you, and it's usually from doubt. That's really the biggest thing. It's from doubt. And listen, I'm not telling you to trust. I will never say, trust what you get. You will never hear me say that, because I hated hearing that. What do you mean, trust what I get? I think that I think that every connection that I make, I'm in my head and it's just me. Were you telling me to trust that? That made me so aggravated. Between meditation and trust what you get, like, that's not helpful, right? That's not helpful. So what I'm an advocate for is let me show you how to connect so deep, so vivid, and so undeniably real that doubt cannot exist in that environment. All right. And that's what we're going to learn here now. All right. Because, that brings me to the next piece, right? Really, it really opens it up to the next piece. Like, if you're just coming into this now, you've got the information overload piece, right? But on the other side of that, if you've been trying to do this a lot, right? If you've been taking courses, if you've been reading books, if you've been, following people, if you've been mentoring with others, right? And you have all of this information, you have this education on spirit communication, but it's still not working, right? How many of you are out there, August, answer this. How many of you are out there going, August, this all sounds amazing and wonderful, but I literally have tried everything and nothing has worked? Tell me if that's you. Tell me if that's you. Are you the one that has been going through this years, months, whatever, and you feel like you've exhausted your resources, or you've gone as far as that you can go, and nothing that you have tried is letting you connect in the way that you want to connect, right? You've had some experiences here and there, and but nothing is taking you into that undeniable experience. Yeah, there's a lot of you on here. There's a lot. Like, I think that we kind of all go through that phase where we first step into it. It's information overload. It's so crazy. We start to pick things. We go into the things we resonate with. We're studying, we're trying, we're doing all the stuff that we can. We spend years, months, weeks trying this stuff, and it still doesn't work. And then we get to the point where it's like, I've tried everything and it's not working. The reason nothing has stuck is because none of that stuff teaches you your unique way of connecting. You have to discover your unique way of connecting in order to have an undeniable, flowing conversation with the spirit world whenever you want, for as long as you want, with whatever spirit you want. You have to discover your unique way of connecting. And when you're studying a course, when you're reading a book, when you're following somebody else or reading or watching different videos, everybody's trying to give you a framework, right? I wish I could write down on a piece of paper, step 1, do this, step 2, do this, step 3, do this. Here you go. Follow step 1, 2, and 3, and you'll be able to connect with the spirit world. That does nothing for anyone. All of the courses teach you a framework that's not fit for you. A lot of these things are boilerplate templates that were just regurgitated over time, repackaged, and people have put their own spin on things, right? Or maybe that actually does work, but it only works for the person teaching it because it's their unique way of connecting. Right? And while you may be able to have some certain level of experiences with it, it's not going to take you to that place because it's not designed for you. Listen, I've worked with thousands of people and I've never seen two that connect in the same way. What was that bowl of ice cream? That's cool. I've never seen two people connect in the same way out of the thousands that I've worked with. Not even close. Okay? Not even close. Everybody has their own unique way of connecting, and you've got to discover what that is. Okay? And so, well, people are always like, at this point, like, well, how do I find my unique way of connecting? August, that sounds like exactly, I know, yes, I need to find my own unique way of connecting. Well, the truth is, I can't tell you what your unique way of connecting is, right? That's something that's discovered. Right? And it took me 9 years. Remember how I told you in the beginning how I tried and experimented and I played with all of these different things, and then finally, like 9 years later, that last piece of the puzzle clicked and boom, I was there. And since then, I've been able to connect with such clarity. Right? Well, the reason is because along that journey, when I was experimenting and playing, remember how I said I was analyzing every single experience that I was having? I was analyzing it all. And the stuff that was working, I started to apply it and it would take me deeper, and I kept doing that. Well, I was tracking that progress. What was working? I was following that along. And so when that last piece of the puzzle clicked, I had my whole way. I had been following my path. When that last piece of the puzzle clicked, I knew my unique way of connecting. And once you know your unique way of connecting, you have it for life. It never changes. It's always the same. And so that is what it takes to have these undeniable conversations with the spirit world. You have to understand your unique way of connecting. Without that, it's impossible. But here's the thing. So August, you're telling us it's going to take 9 years. No, no. All right. Here's the one thing that I wish I would have known when I was on that journey. And this is what's going to help you do it so much faster than I did. Go and experiment with everything. Don't ask people for book recommendations. Don't ask people for recommendations of other things. Just consume as much as you can. But here's the caveat. If you try a method, a modality, a framework, if you try something once and it does not work, throw it away, move on. Quickly, be quick to just throw it away. You don't need to try it a second time. Throw it away. It doesn't work for you. You did it right. Okay? You can't do it wrong. You did it right. Move on to the next thing. If a part of that worked, take the part that worked with you. Go on, move, travel along. That would have saved me years. If I would have moved on, I would go and I would take a course and I would beat my head against the wall trying to make it work, right? I would try and right? And it wasn't until I was like, all right, well, let me just take the stuff that worked and move on. Boom, I would have another experience because the stuff that wasn't working was in the way. And so don't be the person that beats your head against the wall, okay? Just try. Give it to your, like move on quick. Try it all. Listen, and just because something resonates does not mean that it is your way. It just means that it is a path to the breadcrumb that you're supposed to pick up, right? So if it resonates at first, explore it. You might find something, and that originally thing that resonated doesn't resonate anymore. It was just the path to find that piece. That's what I needed to know. That's what I wish somebody would have told me, and it would save years of heartache. But listen, I'm going to do you one even more solid, right? So that's one of the ways, right? One of the ways. Listen, the other way that my students are doing it bypasses all of that stuff. Right? It bypasses all of the experimentation, all of the heartache, all of everything, okay? And it's the way that I work with my students that gets them into that, right? It's let me do this puzzle. It's very unique the way that I work with people, okay? There's nothing else out there like that, okay? Hopefully that's what you've realized in this workshop as well, is that this information is very different than everything else out there. Because this is the new way of connecting, the simple, the easy way. Everything else is just fluff and glitter, okay? And I really mean that from the bottom of my heart. Those of you that have been on this path for a while feel that, right? Because you know it's not worked so far, all right? So this is what I do. This is how I work with my students. Like when in my mentorship program, I literally hold my students by the hand and I walk them right into their first undeniable, flowing conversation with the spirit world. All right. And that's my favorite part of all of this, right? There is no better feeling that first time somebody's like, boom, and you're like, oh. But here's the thing. It's not direct. It really is chaotic that first time we work together, right? It is super insane, because here's the thing. When I'm working with somebody, I'm watching where their energy opens. I'm watching where it closes down. I'm watching how their energy responds to the different things that we're doing and how I'm bringing them through the experience and helping them get to that place, right? And I'm tracking the process. We're bumping against all their doubts. August, I feel like I'm in my head. We deal with it. Boom. August, I feel like I'm making it up. Boom. We deal with it. August, I'm not getting anything. Boom. We deal with it. Whatever comes up for that person, for my student, when we're working together, we deal with it right there on the spot. And so we're like bouncing around like a pinball machine. Boom, 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 off all of the walls. And then all of a sudden, boom, we get there in that experience. Their face lights up. They're there. It's undeniable. They're connecting. It's flowing. It's moving. I don't need to do anything at that point. And they're there, right? And because I tracked it, because I was tracking their progress and how they were getting there, now we know their unique way of connecting, right? Now they have it. Once you have your unique way of connecting, once you know how it unfolds for you, you have it for life. It never goes away. It's always the same. Okay? And so that's how I work with my students to get them to that place. Okay? And so, for those of you that are interested in fast tracking those things and skipping the 9 years I went through and all that heartache, I do have spots available in my mentorship program. And, I'm happy to share a little bit more about that and what that looks like and all of that fine stuff. But really this workshop here today was really about you guys and getting the information out here to you and helping you. So at this point, I'm happy to do some Q&A about anything that you guys want to talk about when it comes to spirit communication, or, if it's okay and you want me to share about my mentorship program and what that looks like, then just let me know in the comments. Let me know if it's okay, and we'll do whatever you guys want to do. This workshop is all about you today. All right. All right. Thank you. Please share. Yes. Mentorship. I want to hear about the mentorship. Okay. How long's the program? Yes. Tell us about the mentorship. Okay. So you guys, so it's okay. So it's okay if I talk about the mentorship a little bit. So a lot of you are responding yes. I don't see any questions about anything else yet. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I have no problem. I'll share a little bit about the program. So the way that the program works, we would work together over the course of 12 months. We meet twice a month for 2 hours at a time. All right. And in these sessions, these are group coaching sessions. And again, like I said, this is unlike anything else that's out there. There is no curriculum. There are no lessons. I'm not teaching you anything. You don't need information. You're not coming to learn spirit communication in my mentorship. You're coming to experience it. Okay. And that's what we do. In these group sessions, we are going right into it. You will be connecting and communicating with the spirit world from day one. We go right into it. Okay. And so because there are no lessons, because this isn't tailored, because this is completely tailored for you, it's really fast tracks your ability. Because remember how I said, what I do the way that I run the sessions, right? That's what I'm getting at. The way that I run these 2-hour sessions, I have students that are been in the program for a little bit, that are a little bit more advanced, that are just here to get, do readings and get their reps in and get some experience. They go off into breakout rooms and they do their readings, okay? But the new students that just come into the program, I'm working with them there in the group, like individually, okay? And so the way that that works is, like, let's say I pick a student, like I mentioned before, or that somebody volunteers to work with me. Like I mentioned a second ago, I'm literally holding their hand and walking them right into that undeniable experience, okay? And like I mentioned earlier, we're bouncing all over the place and we're getting them there. And again, this is literally my favorite part, right? Because this is where you get to see what's actually possible, right? This is where it's like, whoa. Okay. All right. And again, that's where we learn your unique way of connecting. All right. Now, with most of my students, it only takes them about 3 times working with me that closely, and then they've got it. They can do this. They don't need my help anymore. They go off and do their own thing. They have this solid foundation, all right? And they're able to connect with the spirit world after 3 times working with me. And the reason that it works so fast, okay, is because, like I said, that first time you're going to see what's possible, all right? That second time we work together, this is where the confidence comes in. This is where we're giving our brain evidence, because you have the experience again and you're like, okay, right? Students are like, okay, yes, this is repeatable. I can do this whenever I want. It was just as amazing as the first time. The first time wasn't some sort of a fluke or accident. I can actually do this. And so now you built that confidence, all right? The third time we work together, I'm really not doing anything. I'm really not helping at all. If you get stuck, I may give you a nudge, but the reason most people can just do it by this time is because they know their unique way of connecting by the time we get here, okay? They know how it works, and they've already used it twice, and so they have experience on how to navigate things. Okay. And so that's where it all comes in. That's how it happens so fast, right? Isn't it, it just blows my mind each time. Like when a student comes in their first time, right? And they see other students doing readings and connecting, and they're like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm like, well, this is their second meeting, right? And then it's like, oh, really? And then their second or third meeting, they're like, okay, yeah, yeah. Total shift in perspective, like immediately, shift in experience right away. All right. And it's just something fun really to watch. And so from there, like I mentioned, right? So it's like a 12-month program. All right. But you don't need anywhere near 12 months to get this. Okay. Like I mentioned, what happens is that once we work together, you have those 3 experiences. You're off, you're on your own, you're doing it by yourself. You're experiencing all these unique things on your own, and you're going to want to know how to fine tune those. You're going to want to know how to go deeper in these experiences, right? Because this whole new world opens up to you after that, right? And you're going to have these very unique experiences you're going to want to learn how to handle, have more of, go deeper, and whatnot. And so, for example, like a lot of times students are like, well, I went to go connect with my loved one and 3 of them showed up. How do I do that? How do I have a conversation with more than one spirit at a time, right? We're going to learn that, right? We're going to deal with that. We're going to work with that, right? Or you're like, August, I, tuned into this area of my life that really needed this attention, and I got so much clarity and I was able to fix this thing that was going on. How do I do that more, right? And so we're going to work with that. Okay. And so we're going to fine tune it. And so all of those experiences that are unique that you're having, that's what we do the rest of the time together, is that we fine tune. Now, the only reason why I even say 12 months in this program is because a couple of things, right? I never want to push somebody faster than they're ready to go, right? Because I have students, this is brand new to them, right? And some of them don't feel comfortable at first. And so, with students that want to take their time and work at their own comfort level, and just kind of maybe observe the first few sessions, not really do much, not really participate, maybe even keep their camera off on the Zoom session, right? Maybe, just kind of coast through and let themselves warm up to it before they start going into it. For students that want to take that approach, 12 months is way more than enough time that you need, okay? The other side of that, right, is that now, if we have scheduling conflicts, if there's things like that, last minute schedule changes, there's no pressure to attend a session. These things are totally flexible. Remember, there is no lesson, there is no curriculum. You're not going to miss out on something. All of it's tailored to you. So, there's no pressure for you to miss a session. If you miss it, you just come to the next one. You've got way more than enough time for you to get this, right? It isn't about, I got to go through 12 months and then I can communicate. No, the 12 months is there just as the container. You're going to get it so much faster than that 12 months. As a matter of fact, my students that come in and they're like, August, let me know if this is you. What I'm about to describe, let me know if this is how you would do my mentorship program. I have students that come in and they're like, August, let's go. I can't get this fast enough. Let's move it. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get this. Is that you? Is that how you guys would do my mentorship? Let me know in the comments if that's how you would do it. Because for those of you that are ready to jump in, that are ready to go and run wild with it, you guys get this in about 90 days. Fully fine-tuned. All right. This isn't something that's going to take you long. I see all the yeses. Yes, I need this yesterday. Okay. You need this. Then go. Listen, I have some openings in my program. You can go to the link in the comments or in my bio or somewhere around this video on my profile, somewhere around here, you can go to a link and you can schedule an interview with me. That is really the first step. Okay, it's to schedule the interview and then we go from there. That's where we'll discuss your particulars, what you're wanting, what you're looking for, and all of those things where I'll tell you more about the program and how, all the other logistical stuff that's boring. We discuss all of that in the interview, once you're accepted. All right. So like I said, space is limited but there's a few openings, for my interviews right now. So anyway, there's so much more to it, but that's basically the gist of it. You also have full access to me. You can text me, email me. We can have a conversation at any time. I really don't put a time limit on it. Once you come into my program, you're family. Right. And so we talk, we chat, I get, amazing, wonderful phone calls and emails from students literally every day. I got one right before I got on this live, about a student that, she came in, she wanted to read professionally and, that's the other thing too. I help students, that want to go on and read professionally and want to do this for other people. And maybe turn it into a business, or those of you that, may not be interested in a business, but just want to share this with as many people as you can. That's part of the program too, is that I also help you guys figure out how to get your clients, how to get people showing up, how to spread this as far and as wide as you would like to go with it. But I had a student that works in hospice, and she just sent me a text earlier right before I got on this, and she was like, August, thank you so much. I just opened my calendar and I'm booked out for the next 30 days. And I was like, wow, good for you, and it was so satisfying for her because she's not doing it for a business or charge money. She's retired and she's really doing it to help people from the bottom of her heart. And that's what she wanted more than anything. She wanted a full calendar. And so that hit me, right? That hit me. And so that's why I do this stuff too, is to really help you guys, right? And so that's how I make my impact. You guys are the ones who go out and spread this. Okay. Any questions? Any other questions? I talk to myself for advice when it's quiet. Is that a version of talking to spirit? Yeah, it kind of is. It's kind of not, it's with your intuition, right? It's connecting with your own intuition is really what it's about. You're connecting with your own in your own energy, and very much, I have a conversation with myself all the time, all the time. You know, even with this, giving this workshop and stuff, it's like I'm channeling this out of my energy. Like, I can't remember all of this stuff. This isn't in the forefront, right? If you start asking me questions about stuff that I said in the beginning of this workshop, I'm going to have to like tune back in. I don't remember it with memory, right? The local hard drive is done. It's max capacity. Everything's in the cloud, right? Everything's in the cloud. And so that's what I have to do, is access the cloud. And that's what you mean when you're talking to yourself, you're accessing your own energy, the cloud. All right, I see a couple of you guys. Oh man. All right, I see quite a few of you. Quite a few of you have already booked interviews. Carolina, you booked an interview. Awesome. Thanks, Carolina. Yeah, I see quite a few of you. So listen, if you're interested, listen, spots fill up so fast. Spots really fill up fast. And so if this is something, listen, I want to be clear about who this is for too. You're ready for a mentor. You have the time, the resources, you're dedicated to this. You want this more than anything else. This is the most important thing happening in your life. You want to create meaning and purpose in your life. You want to help other people. You are super dedicated to this. Or even if you're wanting to really connect with your own loved one. I work with a lot of bereaved people too. So if you're wanting to really connect with your own loved one and not really share this with others, that would be the other thing, but that would be the other type of person that I work with. But again, you would have to be super dedicated. This would have to be the most important thing going on right now. You would have to have the time, the resources to be able to actually stay with this, right? It is a commitment, right? It's not a time commitment. It's an energetic commitment, right? You have to come in and like, I am ready to go, August. Let's talk about this. Let's get set up. I am ready to do this, right? And so if that's how you feel, like you're ready, then please book an interview. Spots are very limited, all right? And so if you're like on the fence, like, I don't know, I might not have the time, just wait. You know, spots will open up again in the future. But like, if you know for sure, like the time is now, that right now is the time, then that's who I'm wanting to talk to. That's who I want to bring into the program, okay? And so if that's you, please, you can find the link, like I mentioned. It's either in the comments if you're watching the replay, or it's going to be on my main profile. You'll find the link somewhere around here, okay, to schedule an interview. How much is it? I don't know. Like, we need to talk first, right? That's something that I don't really, I can't really give a price before we kind of connect and before we, I find out where you are, right? The first step is like, this might not even be for you, right? And if it's not for you, then I'll direct you to the right place, right? And so there's different packages and programs that I can put you in. And so to really discuss price, I really need to know what's going on with you and your situation. All right. And so that's like I said, the first step is the interview, to talk about it, to see if it's right for you. And then from there, we talk about all of that other stuff. All right. So anyway, guys, I'm going to get running. Listen, if you need anything, please comment on this video, comment on my other videos. I may not write directly to you in one of my comments, but I am looking at those comments. They are inspiration for my videos that I put out there and put on social media. So if you have questions, if you want to connect with me, make sure that you're going to those comments and leaving your comments, okay? If this video helped you today, please share it. Drop a comment down below right now and just say, this helped me. Put a heart emoji. Write something in the comments right now if this helped you, because that is really big, right? That really helps with the social media engines, and people can see this who need it. All right. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Sylvia. I appreciate it. Carolina, thank you. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. I love you guys all. We'll talk again soon.